Yo, how's it going? It is me, TheHauntedScythe, and I am bringing this video to you to show me unlocking the Blight. So, I just recently got these shards and these blood points because of bug fixes and whatnot. So they were gifting them, but now I have enough to get a new character, and excuse me, I'm going to be getting the Blight. So first I'm going to be reading his perks, then I'll read his ability, and then I'll buy him. And if you guys want to see me play him in the future, let me know, and I will definitely make a video on that. So first, we have his 3 teachables, of course, and 2 of them are Hex. And I did not know that. I've never looked at this, but I'm about to read them, so I'm about to find out with you guys. So, after kicking a generator for the next 30 seconds, the first survivor that interacts with it will scream, revealing their location for 4 seconds, and become afflicted with the exposed status effect for 60. So it has a cooldown of 120 seconds. That's actually a pretty good perk, especially with like let's say you run this and pop, and like, you wouldn't need surveillance, because this is basically surveillance. Except it has a cooldown. Alright, and then we have the Hex Blood Favor. So, a Hex that gains the entity's favor when blood is spilled. When a survivor is hit with a basic attack, pallets within 16 meters of your location are held in place by the entity for 15 seconds. These pallets cannot be pulled down for 15 seconds. That's actually a very good perk. And then it has a cooldown of 60 seconds. So that's cool. So let's say you down a person right next to a pallet, you know, no one can come pallet save, or you hit someone in Killer Shack and they run to the pallet, they just can't drop it. So while Hex Undying is active, survivors within 2 meters of any Dole totem have their aura revealed. When another Dex totem is another Hex totem is cleansed, the totem's Hex transfers to the Hex Undying totem. Deactivating Hex Undying, any tokens that transferred Hex had are transferred as well. Okay, let me reread that and think about it. So when another when another Hex totem is cleansed, that totem's Hex transfers to Hex Undying totem, deactivating Hex Undying, and then any tokens that transferred Hex had are transferred as well. So let's say you have 5 stacks of Devour Hope. Is that what it's called? The one that lets you insta down people and mori them. The Hag perk. So let's say you have 5 stacks of that, and then they finally find it, and then you just have this perk, and then they don't even get it. Dang, that I could definitely see that as being annoying. But it just like improves your chances, because you have like a 50-50 shot, or you have like a 20% chance normally, because there's 5 totem spawns, I think, right? So you have like a 20% chance to spawn in like a cheese location. Let's say there's one like really good location for a totem to spawn. So let's say it spawns there. So now if you run this perk and Devour, then you have a 40% chance, because if your Devour spawns there, then it's there. But if it doesn't spawn there and this spawns there, that means when your Devour is cleansed, it'll just go to this. Okay, that's kind of cool. And then it also has that, you know, aura reading, to where if they're next to a Dole totem. But I guess that kind of contradicts running it with like a Hex build, because there's only going to be 1 Dole totem on the map if you have 4 hexes. Oh, what am I doing? I gotta buy him. The other person I was thinking about getting was Deathslinger, but I think Blight's ability is really cool. I think it'd be fun to learn, so I'll buy him. And then as soon as I buy him, I will of course read his ability. Okay, well I think I already bought him, but yeah, I did. But this loading thing is still going, but I don't think it's gonna affect anything, so I'm just gonna read this. So Blighted Corruption. The Putstola serum courses through his veins, corrupting his mind and body, yet granting him unnatural physical abilities. Special ability, Rush. Press the power button to quickly rush forward. Doing so consumes a rush token. While performing Rush, the Blight cannot launch an attack. So you like dash forward. Alright. And then if you rush into a wall or an obstacle in the environment to slam into it. If the rush fails to connect with a wall or obstacle, or if the Blight is out of rush tokens, he will enter a short fatigue state and begin recharging the tokens. Why was so yawny? And then special attack, Lethal Rush. So following a slam, press the power button to launch a Lethal Rush. Doing so consumes a rush token. Lethal Rush behaves the same as a rush, except that the Blight may launch an attack by pressing the attack button. Okay. So, if you click Rush, then you run into something. You know, you're just going to keep running into stuff. And then if you press the power button again, after you slam, it's going to be a Lethal Rush, which is, then you can attack in that one. Okay. He's got some long lore. Alright, let's read the lore, boys. Okay. To understand the human condition, one must rise above it. This was the credo of Talbot Grimes, a Scottish chemist whose unrestrained ambition took him to towering heights. As a boy, he was a popular child, bright, charismatic, and unafraid to challenge authority. Yet, despite his social graces, he was fiercely independent, spending much of his time exploring the sprawling fields near his hometown, alone. What began as a child's curiosity nearly turned deadly after experimenting with a patch of poisonous foxglove. For days he laid in bed, dripping with sweat, purging any food that touched his stomach. When he recovered, it wasn't fear that gripped him, but fascination. There was something magical in how a single flower could so drastically affect him. Into his adult years, his ambition developed as quickly as his questionable methods. He attended the London School of Medicine and excelled despite several reprimands. No! Can't be doing that to me! I think it's because it finally loaded and, like, understood that I had him, okay. Haha, okay. And excelled despite several reprimands. His willingness to push the limits secured him a position with the British East India Company, and within several years he was made head chemist. In time, he completed one of his greatest achievements, a chemical that could increase a worker's productivity while reducing their need to rest. He was rewarded with a secret laboratory beneath a prison camp on Dyer Island. There, off the coast of India, prisoners of the Opium War became his unwilling subjects, leading to a drug that allowed soldiers to withstand incredible amounts of pain. Though most side effects were minor, there were rumors that a small number of soldiers went mad, and Farrell states they massacred villages, impaling the populace on bayonets and leaving them hanging from trees. There were no official reports on the subject, and Talbot refused to blame himself for what could only be exaggerated war stories. Though his callous brilliance seemed unflappable, he was ignorant to the enemies his questionable work had amassed. The realization struck him quite literally, with a steel pipe to the back of his head during a trip to Mangalore. He was bound and loaded into a wagon. Where his blindfold was removed, a sickly man showed him a mass grave filled with hundreds of bodies. Unbeknownst to Talbot, his productivity increasing drug had nearly killed an entire factory's worth of workers. He knew he couldn't defend himself against the anger and accusations of his abductor. All he could do was curl up as the blows from the steel pipe rained down on him. His body was thrown into the grave and left for dead. Shifting between consciousness and darkest black, he crawled for an escape, fingers sinking into rotten flesh. Black flies feasted on his uncovered skin. The sensation of 100 pin pricks stabbing into him. As he collapsed, he came face to face with the dead woman's dazzling hazel eyes. Too weak to pull away, he could do nothing but witness his life's work. Then, from the edge of death, he was brought back. He found himself on a small bed as a kindly, wrinkled face looked over him. With each pained breath, he was nursed back to health in an ancient mystery school posing as a monastery. In verdant gardens behind tall, unassuming walls, monks studied forbidden texts, striving to expand the human mind in search for other dimensions, believing one to be connected to the other. Talbot's knowledge provided indispensable. His mind-altering chemicals integrated seamlessly with theories of neural expansion. He realized that his salvation was no coincidence. He was plucked from the pit specifically to advance the school's knowledge. He agreed to help until his recovery was complete, being tasked with researching what the monks called the soul chemical, a compound derived from the pineal gland that could open the mind's eye. What began as a favor to his saviors soon became an obsession. Poring over the school's archives of lost texts, he uncovered scientific formulas that confirmed previously unthinkable ideas. He dreamt of ushering humankind into a new period of enlightenment. Perhaps then the nightmares of hundreds of dead factory workers and those two hazel eyes would fade from his mind. As he came closer to a breakthrough, the demeanor of the monk shifted. The gentle smiles they offered were paired with uneasy eyes that quickly darted away when spotted. The polite conversations he was once privy to turned to hushed murmurs. The last thing he would see of the school was the cracked ceiling above his head, branching like a dendrite through plaster. His next memories were a shattered mosaic of images and sensations, smearing lights, horse hooves on cobblestone, coarse burlap scratching at his cheeks, and sharp bites into his arm. He woke ragged and unwashed, splayed on the straw mattress of an opium den. Mind in a dense fog, his first thought was of his notes, the only record of his groundbreaking revelations. He searched frantically, scrambling through the dingy basement, pleading aloud for help. The few other denizens looked up from their hammocks, offering nothing but drug-soaked eyes and apathetic gazes that soon fell into half-slumber. Before he noticed the robed figure appear before him, the needle plunged into his arm and the world disappeared once more. Awoken, again, each time hazier than the last. He tongued the hollow gaps in between his teeth. How long, he wondered. A faint memory returned, the soul chemical. His notes, the verge of a breakthrough. A faraway whisper entered his mind. He fumbled with a stone, sharpening it with shaking hands. In the dim light of the den, amongst the catonic occupants, he carved his research from the memory into the walls. He wrote for hours until his fingers bled. Moving on the floor, taking in everything, the voice whispered despite his inability to comprehend it. When there was nowhere left to write, he gripped the stone and carved the message into his chest. Strained with blood, he witnessed a miracle before him, a magnificent field of lush orange flowers. The whispered voice beckoned to him, urging him to enter the field and discover worlds and dimensions beyond the human comprehension. For a moment, Talbot felt the sense of wonder he possessed as a child. The denizens of the opium den awoke to silence. The dry scent of smoke lingered in the air. Shambling out of their drug-hazed fog, they found the stone wet with blood, tiny rivulets coursing through the cracks. As eyes adjusted to the darkened room, the jagged lettering scrawled across its length began to appear. Written over and over without end, there was but one single line. Death is only the beginning. So that was quite a long story. So basically, this guy, really interested in learning stuff, he kind of went bonkers, not gonna lie. Because he said he was writing his research on the walls. He was only writing one thing. He ran out of room. No, you didn't. It was a one sentence, my guy. So in his chest are inscribed the words, "Death is only the beginning." And by looking at this guy's face, you can only, I mean, they couldn't be too incredibly wrong. Because that guy does not look alive. But for now, this has been the Haunted Scythe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.